Senator Klobuchar.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you, for being here. I just want to point out again that Denmark and Greenland have made clear that Greenland is not for sale. And this hearing thus on the acquisition of Greenland and the problems it's causing with our allies seems strange to me when we just got the report that the inflation is going up, and I think we should be more focused on those things, but I'm happy to dive in, being from a state that has a lot of snow, and having been to Greenland, I'd love to talk about this. As my Republican colleague, Senator Murkowski of Alaska, said in a joint statement with a member of the Danish Parliament, the future does not require us to redraw the borders on the map, but to work harder than ever to cross them. Dr. Pincus, do you agree that strengthening our alliances advance U.S. strategic objectives in the region?
Thank you, Senator, for that question. I would say that from a policy analytic perspective, the U.S. has clearly defined national interests in Greenland and across the Arctic, and we have identified some challenges and some problems that we are turning our attention to. We have a range of policy options, and I think it is the job of the President and the Congress of policymakers to make those policy determinations, balancing relative priority, risk, and cost. So again, with regards to Greenland, we have a range of options, and there's a spectrum in there. And I think at the lower cost, a sort of lower hurdle part of that spectrum, I would put diplomatic arrangements, treaties, defense agreements.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm concerned about the freezing, since we're talking about freezing lands, freezing of federal grants and assistance that can seriously harm our global competitive advantage, including in the Arctic. For instance, the National Science Foundation's Office of Polar Programs guides critical research on Arctic issues. For example, the University of Minnesota's Polar Geospatial Center has been working on digital mapping with support, which is going to be really important as we look at what's happening with Russia and other countries that are not our friends, China, that are heading there. What role, Dr. Mercer, can the university research community play in preparing the U.S. for future civilian and military operations in the Arctic region?
Thank you for that question. America is the world's leader in scientific research, and our work, NSF's work, or the work that we support in the Arctic, including that of the University of Minnesota and the Polar Geospatial Center, is really important to the U.S. As I noted before, we're strong collaborators with other U.S. government agencies, including various Department of Defense services, and as well as the government of Greenland. So I think that those relationships between academia and the various government institutes that further research in the Arctic are really important.
Okay. Dr. Pincus, different topic, icebreakers, big deal for the Great Lakes. And as you can imagine, last November, Canada, Finland, and the U.S. formalized the Icebreaker collaboration effort pact known as the Ice Pact, very creative, to build more icebreaker ships, essential tools to open trade routes. I've talked to representatives of both countries outside of the U.S., Canada, and Finland about this. How can we maximize our collaboration with Canada and Finland in the Arctic? And I know you share my concerns about slow momentum for building in the U.S. What can more be done to boost the domestic manufacturing? So first question on Finland, Canada. Second one is what we can do here besides getting more icebreakers in conjunction with them. And maybe that's the answer. So,
thank you, ma'am. I appreciate that. The Wilson Center has been consulting extensively on the Ice Pact and on icebreaker construction, and there are a number of hurdles here, and they include labor and workforce challenges. There's a shrinking talent pool, and shipyards are competing for skilled labor. We do not have a national shipbuilding strategy or unified shipbuilding plan to help align yards and ships for best fit. Our contracting practices are often adverse for business interests. For example, we often use firm fixed price contracts on first-in-class ships and vessels, and that places all of the risk on a shipyard. Our specifications and requirements are often permit perfection to be the enemy of the good. And so I think there's a lot of things that we could do and lessons that we could learn from our foreign counterparts in terms of leveraging their expertise and speeding up our acquisitions. But one point I do want to make is that the Coast Guard cannot just get more hulls. Yes, we need a lot more icebreakers, but they also need people and they need funding to run those hulls. We see with the recent acquisition of the Storis that it is going to be years before it comes into operational capacity because of the refits that it's going to need. And the Coast Guard is under strain now with demand for its mission set. We're seeing challenges meeting all of those demands. There's strains placed on people and families. This is true for the Navy as well. The world wants the Coast Guard to be in a lot of places and the Navy to be in a lot of places. And so I think we need hulls, but we also need people.
And how do you see the last question, the Ice Pact working with Canada and Finland and helping?
I think it's a little too soon to say. There is tremendous potential there, but the implementation is going to be the real challenge right now. We have plans in place, but there haven't been resources appropriated to support the implementation of Ice Pact. So I think DHS and Coast Guard are working through some of those challenges, and it will be interesting to see if we can make some creative solutions around relaxing trade restrictions, perhaps permitting in skilled labor that could help us build icebreakers faster, perhaps relaxing some ITAR restrictions on tech sharing. So I think there's a lot of ways for innovation, but we have to pick our targets and again, apply that sort of range of analysis. What's the top priority? Where are we willing to accept some risk and pay some cost? Thank you.
Thank you.